We have just a few days left of this retreat, and today the corpse of Bernard Jones is coming to reside in the Chapel of Rest, a kind of auspicious ending to winter's retreat, or however you want to see it. For a Buddhist monk, we always consider these as opportunities and blessings, where maybe average people, would consider it ominous, because death, dead bodies, anything connected with the ending of a condition is either ignored or feared. It's a mystery, isn't it? When somebody dies, what happens? And I've been asked this question so many times, what do Buddhists believe about when somebody dies? Where do they go? We don't have a soul, so what gets reborn? If you don't have a soul, there's nothing to get reborn, and you just disappear into oblivion, or is there some essence or substance or spirit that carries on into the next life? And so this is all speculation, isn't it? It's one can speculate or prefer various scenarios. So what I'm pointing to is right now, this is here and now, Paccuppanna Dhamma. The body's not dead, at least this body here. And so this is reflecting on the way it is. It's not speculating about what'll happen to me when I die, because I haven't died yet, or physically died. You see what I mean? I'm pointing to, it's an honest reflection, noticing the way it is, rather than carrying on ideas that you get from Buddhism or any other religion or philosophy. For us now, death is in the future. That the physical death is inevitable, but it's certain that every one of us will die. So that is a thought in the present. This body is I will die in the future. That is, I'm creating that in the present. And yet it is a fact. Everything that is born dies. Everything that arises ceases. This is the reflection on anicca. And when we do with vipassana meditation, reflecting on the way it is of conditioned phenomena, sankhara, sape sankhara anicca. And so we contemplate the births and deaths that are going on in the present, rather than speculating about what's going to happen to me when my body dies. Because the me is a construction, isn't it, in the present? If I'm this body is mine. What happens when you die? And I don't know. When physical body dies. So this is noticing the way it is, not knowing, because the conditions for physical death of this body are not present at this time. This body is living, breathing, fire elements operating, blood circulating, nervous system is operating, the senses operate accordingly, and this is the way it is. So This is like reflecting on the way it is. If I say I'm living right now and my senses are like this, and then that adds a sense of me as a person to what's happening. But that is a artifice that we create, isn't it? The me and mine, the identity with the five khandhas is an artifice. We create that onto experience. Me and mine is something we create. But the perception of me and mine, the thought of me and mine, is a sankhara itself, isn't it? It arises and ceases. If I stop creating, stop thinking me and mine, this is my body, and so forth. If I stop creating these thoughts, what remains is, if I stop thinking, in other words, and just listening and being aware, then I'm not adding anything to this moment. I'm not compounding or projecting onto anything. I'm just noticing. There's awareness, sati panya. Wisdom comes from this, discerning, seeing things as they are, rather than speculating, fearing, dreading, hoping, expecting, theorizing possibilities. In the investigation of desire, the second noble truth, where we observe the nature of kama-dhanha, bhava-dhanha, vibhava-dhanha. This dhanha then is, something that arises and ceases in the present. And that's what we out of ignorance and not understanding things as they are, we identify with our desires. It's my soul, and my soul. I create my soul. It's a desire. Me as a special, unique, eternal soul in the universe is a creation. Maybe desire to perpetuate myself forever as an independent entity or independent soul. And I was brought up like this in Christianity, where the idea then was that when you die, your soul goes, either goes to hell if you've been bad, or goes to heaven if you've been good. And your soul lives with God for eternity. And what is a soul? Well, is it like one soul, or is the soul the same for everybody, or will I retain my unique personal qualities? Does my soul, is that my unique personal identity, so that when I die, there'll be this Sumedho soul operating forever, living? I don't know probably what the Christian God does to Buddhist monks. Taking a risk. My mother said, "You're a baptized Christian. You're a Christian. You have to be a Christian. You're baptized." And I told her, I said, "Look, I got baptized when I was an infant. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't have any choice in the matter." So all this is artificial, isn't it? This sense of me and my personal soul. Even God is an artifice. And a soul, my unique soul, is an artifice, in heaven and hell. These are creations of the human mind. There's nothing wrong with them. I'm not, saying that that's wrong to do that, but it's with reflective meditation, you're just noticing the way it is. That heaven, one can conceive heaven as some kind of ethereal place that your soul goes to. Now that is a creation, isn't it, of my mind? Maybe I took the idea from somebody else. Obviously, it wasn't an original idea with any of us, but maybe it's an unquestioned assumption that this is what happens. Or hell can be seen as another realm of misery, unmitigated misery forever. So these are words, aren't they? Hell, if you're bad and you're not a Christian, then you go to hell and suffer unmitigated pain for eternity. Now that is a heavy creation, if you ask me. That is really brutal. But yet people quite willing to believe it. Because people don't know, do we? We don't know what happens when, is there a God? Is God a person, a separate entity, an all-powerful Father? What is it? Is it a spirit? Is it and this is, then we think about it, we try to figure it out with thought. And we're stuck in that linear trap of the intellect. That thought goes on to another thought. Thought is dualistic. Thought divides, separates. Its function is to do that. That's what thinking is about. It's this is bigger, that's smaller, better, worse, and so forth. And in terms of conditioned experience, in a conditioned realm, some things are better than others, and bigger or smaller, or more refined or more coarse, or whatever. So the conditioned realm has this, it has qualities: earth, fire, water, and air. It has all these different combinations of conditioned phenomena produce and manifest in various ways: subtle, mental, psychic, physical, sensual. They all are what they are. And in Vipassana, we're asked to contemplate phenomena, not in its infinite varieties, in qualities and quantities, but in the characteristics that all phenomena has, which is that all phenomena have in common, which is anicca, dukkha, anatta. And that it's putting it into a way that we can reflect on conditioned phenomena, not just endlessly kind of sort through it and be caught up in its infinite varieties, which is endless. I mean, modern science allows us to explore phenomena endlessly. Nanotechnology, which is microscopic and macroscopic, and telescopes that can look out into outer space, and microscopes that can look at minute unseeable things to the normal eye, and it goes on and on into small and big, vast, grand, into microscopic. So in the result of contemplating anicca, all conditions are impermanent, is not to convince ourselves. We're not trying to convince ourselves, because the Buddha said that, but to to really notice within the experience we have in the present the way things actually are in consciousness, like thoughts or emotions, memories, physical sensations, sensory experiences are like this. You can't fix them in any way. They change. When you're observing them, when you're the witness of them, then you're not petrifying anything. You can't stop their movement. You can only go with it and notice that whatever arises ceases. You can hold to a view that something's permanent is the thing. With the intellect we can say, I have a permanent soul, and then live with that assumption, and believe that I have a permanent soul that's separate from every, it's not like anyone else's soul. But in terms of meditation, that's a thought, isn't it? That is not. We're not saying that it's true or false, but it's a thought. It is what it is. In other words, I have a permanent soul, unique soul that will never die. That's thinking, isn't it? If you don't think that, what's it like when you don't think at all? When thought ceases. So this is where the Sati Sampajanya, or awareness, is the way that the Buddha pointed to pay attention to the way things are, rather than becoming absorbed and fascinated and repelled by the qualities of the conditions. Because the conditioned phenomena, it has qualities, and therefore we can become fascinated, interested, repelled by those qualities. So the sense world, as we explore it, is, it's beautiful, ugly, everything. The qualities of it are changing. A baby, when a baby's born, isn't it? We tend to, when people bring their newborn babies here, babies are quite beautiful. You look at them, you like to look at them. Everybody likes to look at them. People stand around and talk, baby talk to them. And so this is because they're attractive, and that's the beginning of life, isn't it? Generally, babies are, attractive to us. We love babies, and we like to hold them and look at them and say silly things to them. But corpses, different. Because the corpse is the end, isn't it? It's the breaking up of the elements. And so when Bernard's corpse arrives here today, the important thing when we meditate, is to observe how it affects us. There's no way, how should I feel about it, or what should I think about it. I'm not going to tell you what you should think. But observe what you do, what it is to look at a dead human body. And what it brings up in terms of emotional reactions or thoughts, memories. As the observer, as the witness, the knowing, rather than trying to get, figured out, or get sentimental, or try to be like a Buddhist and say, oh, it's It's analyze it from a Buddhist thinking mind. Trust in the awareness, the immediate, the visual presence that on contact. Just to be the witness to that, whatever you feel or don't feel. So this awareness then is the awareness must be the gate to the deathless. It must be the way we can transcend the conditioned world, that we can actually observe conditioned phenomena, observe the creation of ourselves, see it in terms of Dhamma, see that thoughts arise and cease, emotions arise and cease, sensory experience, contact through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body. These impingements cause reactions. They arise and cease. There's nothing permanent. And the knowing of this, the knowing of all that is subject to rising, subject to ceasing, is no longer theoretical or just reiterating Buddhist ideals, but we are noticing the reality of it. So in just creating myself in the present, if I don't create myself as a person, what's left? There's consciousness operating. There's Sati, consciousness, awareness, consciousness, and then Panya, wisdom, discerning. It's intelligent. And I don't create that. That's not a personal quality. I can't claim it that wisdom is me, or that I'm a wise person, or anything like this. That is going back into that realm of dualism, of thought, of creating, building up artifices, adding to the moment, projecting onto it something. So that's why during this retreat I keep emphasizing the trust in this awareness before you become anybody. And that, of course, takes the sati sampajanya, the reflective ability and attention in the present to the way it is. Also ask yourself, can one condition know another? Can one desire know desire? Can Gamadanha know what Bhavadanha is? Or Vipavadanha? These are kind of self-inquiry approaches, but it's worth doing because we don't know who we are, and we seek identity. We want to define ourselves in some way. And so we take roles, we assume positions, we have, we attach to memories and various identities that we hold to because it gives us a sense of knowing who we are. I know what I am. But not knowing what you are, what's that like? You can observe. There's an awareness of not knowing. It's interesting when people that never meditate, and you start questioning their reality, they can become absolutely panic-stricken, because what you depend on for security, knowing who you are, where you live, your identity, your position. This gives this false sense of security. I know my place, I know my position, I know who I am. And then Buddha comes along and starts, do you really? What are you? So it can be, people, I remember when I first started questioning this, became quite frightened, because, one was the things, the perceptions one depended on that gave a sense of security in a world that seemed fairly stable and certain started falling apart. Everything started kind of moving and changing, and personally, emotionally, wasn't conditioned for that. It was too frightening. So we're frightened by the unknown, by alien forces, by ghosts, by mystery, the dark. And so this fear and death is a mystery to us, isn't it? At this point, physically we haven't died, so we don't know. So when people don't like to look at corpses anymore, it's not, in the West we've tidied up the funeral practices so that you cover it up and take it to the crematorium 15 minutes, and somebody gives a eulogy and tells how wonderful the person was, and then the organ music starts and the curtains close around the coffin. And then you get up and go out. Go to the pub or something. So you don't have to see anything unpleasant, Usually crematoriums are, kind of velvet curtains and marble floors, things like that, so that they kind of try to make them attractive or elegant or suitable. No skeletons, nothing that represents death. It's more like, a marble crypt, really. And and organ music, kind of sentimental, soothing and calm, not having to look at one time I was invited years ago in Bangkok to a funeral of somebody I didn't know. When I was staying at some temple where I was invited, a wealthy person had died, and I went to this, before they cremated, they opened the coffin in front of everybody, and it was a woman, about 50-year-old woman. They had a photograph of her, and she'd been kept for 100 days or so, and her corpse was as soon as they lifted the lid off the coffin, this terrible odor came out of rotting corpse. And then the monks, we were invited up first to look at this corpse. So I went up, and you looked into the coffin. There was a rotting corpse, kind of green, slimy, hideous, and smelly, really stinking thing in this coffin. And there was a photograph of her, which was kind of 50-year-old woman. When she was alive, and then the reality of this rotting corpse, and I always remembered that. It left such a strong impression. Now, some Westerners would be generally horrified by that, but I was impressed, because there was something very real and helpful about that. To really look, to experience, to notice, to have that right in front of you, not prettied up, not locked away from you, but the reality of it there, and given the right to, it wasn't a kind of secret funeral or some kind of rite that was going on behind the screens that was illegal. It was part of religious custom, part of Buddhism, funeral rites, and it was to me, something that left left a strong memory, powerful memory of that event, and I admired the way that even the relatives, most of them went up to look at the corpse. Some people couldn't do it, some people just but others, the monks, we all, were expected to. Imagine, no, I can't stand it. So, this, I think, is very healthy. This to me is like a supagamaton, as a reflection and meditation. Is a very, is looking at that, bringing into consciousness the decaying, the non-beauty of the human body, or of animals or physical life. In a modern society that wants only the pretty and the beautiful and the sterilized and the fragrant and the, pleasant side of experience. And you look at our life here in England, so there is an enormous effort to keep out of our consciousness anything that is depressing, unpleasant, ugly. When we go to India, isn't it? And in India they're much more matter of fact. The facts of life are pretty much out in the open. And of course, Varanasi is a fascinating city, famous for, where Hindus believe that they go to die there and have their ashes thrown into the Ganges River. So you go to Benares, and they've got two burning ghats. One where one burning ghat is not so busy, but it's where the poor people get burned, and then the other one is where the richer ones get burned. And it's fascinating to see the corpses burning. It's not beautiful, it's not. It doesn't kind of delight the mind. I'm not a ghoul or anything that finds joy in ugly sights. But it is, for a meditator, it's a very powerful reflection on the way it is. And bringing into consciousness, before this body dies. So the impermanence of a human body, and seeing it being burned, being cremated. And then in one of the customs, if like a pregnant woman that dies, and holy men and babies, they don't cremate them, they throw their corpses in the Ganga River. So while we were there 2 years ago in Varanasi, you walk along the Ghats, and there was a woman's corpse lying there in the river. It was horrible, of a pregnant woman. And every day we'd pass it and get more decayed, and then it would get moved along somehow. I mean, it was shocking, actually, but because it's so different than we wouldn't allow that here. But the thing I liked about living in Varanasi was this. It was, you feel this is a place where spirituality, or this, something is a powerful presence of where the whole emphasis is, it has some kind of spiritual quality to it. Even the Ganga River is a sacred river. So, and then in the Ghats, everything there's so many shrines, different Hindu shrines or Buddhist shrines or whatever. There's everywhere. There's Shiva lingams and Bodhi trees wrapped with cloth, and ancient ones and modern ones. Everything it has some kind of presence that reminds you. I've never really lived very long in such a kind of powerful place as the several months I spent in Varanasi. And the presence of death, because that's, old people, if they can possibly, it's considered very auspicious to die in Varanasi. So they've got the houses where old people are dying. Old people have come to breathe their last in these places and then be cremated. So death is this is the great event that we all have to look forward to. It's interesting to in the West how we regard death as kind of something bad or evil, in fact, or it's a failure of some sort, or it's not a for polite conversation you don't mention it. We try to ignore and cover it over, make it not so stark, so shocking to us, because human beings, we don't like reality. We don't really want to know, do we? We want illusions. Tell me a lie. Say everything is wonderful. Even when it isn't. Because we fear reality. We can't cope with it until we awaken. And in the awakened state, then the reality is enlightening. We're seeing things as they are, not according to an ideal, or out of fear and desire. So the desire to live, the tremendous desire to live, survive, be happy. And if we don't know these desires, if we just caught into them, that we become our desires all the time. So death becomes the vipawaddanha. I don't want to know, I don't want to see it, I don't want to be there. Don't even say the word death, because I can't bear it. It frightens me. It's unbearable. Give me illusions, like these science fiction novels, where you create all kinds of illusions for the proletariat to grasp hold of, the common folk. Silly songs and sentiments and visions and entertainments that make us feel okay. Delude us, keep us in the world of illusion. So awakening then is like this. It's removing the illusion and really observing. Sati sampajanya, reflecting on the way it is. Now it's not to reflect on death as something bad or ugly, or a super-gamatan isn't to make us depressed, to just say how horrible the human body is, and it's just filled with pus and blood and bones, and it's all yucky and disgusting, and that isn't a super-gamatan. That's just a projection, isn't it, of trying to, feel a certain thing of disgust for the human body. But a supa really means noticing the non-beautiful. Like with the human body, isn't it? So much effort is trying to look good, vanity, to make ourselves attractive, good-looking, presentable, clean and sanitary, smelling nice, good manners, and the functions of the body are quite disgusting to us. So we don't like to do those in public. Defecation, urination, and we that's in private. We like to we allow ourselves to eat together. But actually eating's a bit disgusting too, if you but but then the excretory functions are, polite society does not even mention them. And they embarrass us, and they, because they're not beautiful. And we don't want ourselves to be identified with them, Like if we'd like our memory to be around how attractive we were, or, what a nice person. But Sati Sampajanya allows us to actually explore this, the ugly, not as a kind of perversion of relishing the nastiness of life, but in reflecting on the impermanence, the way things move. Birth, babies are beautiful, the youth, and that is what we like, to be young, good-looking, healthy. And then as we get older, then we feel slightly embarrassed by the aging process. So much cosmetic surgery now is, if you want to make lots of money, become a cosmetic surgeon. People desperate to take the wrinkles out and make themselves more attractive, because it's possible now to improve your looks through surgery. So Sati Sampajanya is not an attack on anything, but a reflection on the way it is. And the liberation comes through this awareness. The other doesn't liberate; it merely creates illusions and perpetuates illusions about ourselves and the world we live in. Where the awakening is stepping outside the world of illusion, no longer creating them, no longer believing them. And so the biggest illusion we have is self. That I am this person. And so that the reflection on I am. Now notice that these are two words, English words, I and am, and there's a certain truth to that, in terms of communication on a conventional level. And then I am Ajahn Sumedho. Then it's getting personal, isn't it? All of us can say I am, and it's not personal yet. But then it becomes personal when I put a name to it. I am Ajahn Sumedho. Just noticing how this works. I am a man. I am an American. I am a Buddhist monk. I am a good person, bad person. So, good, bad, American, Buddhist monk, nun, male, female, these are, then it's getting into division again, isn't it? Into taking sides, extremes, dualism. I am is more a reflection on the reality of this moment. There's this sense of I am. This presence, before it becomes personal. But even the I am is an illusion. That's another creation. Now just exploring, noticing the way it is by observing. And so Sati Sampajanya allows us to do this. This is the only way we can do it. You can't do it through analysis. You just go around from one word to the next. And thinking too much always creates doubt and despair. Isn't it? Somebody, if you think about anything too much, you can't do it anymore. Thinking goes from one word to the next, and it's linear. And as long as you identify with any memory, any perception, any condition, and you do not break through that illusion, and you believe it, or make your assumptions about that from that position, then you're caught in the realm of birth and death. And that's where fear of death, fear of failure, the fear is going to haunt us in that realm, the death realm. So vanity, it's what when we're vain, we're actually attaching to death. We think we're attaching to youth, trying to make ourselves as young as possible, have cosmetic surgery, have organ transplants, have everything kind of, maybe in the future they can have kind of genome therapies and stem transplants and all kinds, stem cell transplants and that, where the aging process will not happen. I hear people talking like that, where we'll be able to stay young forever and and healthy, and we'll be able to replace all our worn out organs with modern new ones made out of stem cells from pigs or something. I feel the mind goes on endlessly, wanting to stay alive, preserve, and be young and beautiful forever. The vanity is like that. It's actually attaching to death. You think of it, because conditioned phenomena is about birth and death. They depend on each other. If you were never born, you would never die. Yeah. The reason why I'm old now is because I was born. People ask, why, why do people have to suffer? What is their karma, past lives, that they have to suffer so much in this one? Why are some people born with disabilities, blind or various other things? And then we go on, well, it's the karma, there's ways of kind of explaining it in a mundane way. But it's because we're born. If you're born, then you're subject to anything, It doesn't mean you're going to be born beautiful with complete healthy body that's going to function with good health forever. It means that that being born means that we're going to experience old age, sickness, and death. And this is, the Buddha. This is what awakened Prince Siddhartha from his illusions, from the delusions. Was looking at the old person, the sick person, the corpse, and the meditating yogi, the monk. So the monk then, or the samana, or the yogi, is contemplating this. Where, say, in palace life, generally, according to legend, everything is arranged to promote youth and happiness, excitement, romance, adventure, the arts, the aesthetics, the power politics, position, privilege. And then the old person, sick person, corpse, and yogi. These are what they call the four messengers, four heavenly messengers. So these are, awakening us, from this illusion. Because these are signs to us within this human state to learn from, to recognize that the nature of conditioned phenomena is like this. What arises ceases. If there's birth, then there's going to be old age, sickness, death. This is the natural state of things on the conditioned realm. All conditions are impermanent. So in this, through exploring this, just in terms of the here and now, just in terms of what happens to us while we're still alive in these human bodies, is to reflect in this way. The ending, the cessation of a condition. Now this, in the Four Noble Truths, the cessation or nirodha, is peaceful. It's not hell or blank or oblivion or anything bad. It's peaceful. It's blissful. Nirodha, the Third Noble Truth, the insight into that, is one of peacefulness. It's not depressing. When everything ceases, what's left is peace. And this you can prove for yourself through investigating these Four Noble Truths, through insight, not through thinking. So in my own practice, exploring this, the arising of self and the cessation of self. The sense of me, Ajahn Sumedho, arises and ceases. Emotions arise and cease. Memories arise and cease in consciousness. And just that continuous, determined reflection on the arising and cessation, more and more the reality of cessation. And we're non-arising. We're not seeking to be born again, but where there is cessation of nothing's arising, but there is this peacefulness and no self. That's realized in the present, and that's the point of the Buddha's teaching, was to realize this for yourself. It's reality, and it's not theory. Not a theory at all. Then cessation, nirodha, satya, to be realized. What's realization then? It's attention, isn't it? Noticing. Cessation is this. And then the Eightfold Path is right in front of us, isn't it? It's non-arising. Through samadhi, right understanding, we no longer seek rebirth or caught in that incessant, habitual power of danha or desire, because we've seen through it. We no longer seek to be reborn and constantly looking for something or trying to get rid of things through fear and ignorance. So then the Eightfold Path is samadhi samasangapo. This path is really awareness. Because the awareness is where we are outside. We're no longer bound and deluded by the conditioned phenomena that we're experiencing. So when it's the human karma, having human body and senses, is, used to, when I first started, it just seemed hopeless, because the power of this sense realm seemed so unrelentingly strong. I couldn't see how you could ever get any perspective on it whatsoever. just the habit tendencies, the emotional power of my emotions, and this body with all its demands, its needs, its hunger, its thirst, its pain, its discomforts, when it gets tired and so many unpleasant feelings one has to experience through the human body. And then the world around, the threatening world of praise and blame, living with other people in a society where you're going to be offended, upset by what people say or think, and where there's all kinds of possibilities for happiness and suffering just by what people say and do, the way the weather is, the successes and failures in the world. So the human condition seems to be such a totally powerful and relentless experience. How to get outside it, how to be liberated from it. When I tried to think about it, it seemed impossible. You have to resign yourself to it, really. Just do the best you can, and do the best I can in my life. Hope that's a good enough kind of philosophy. Or in vipassana meditation, it's no longer operating from the intellect. It's not analyzing or judging or trying to find a way out. How to delude myself enough, take drugs or something to live in a realm where I don't feel anything. I just feel blissed out or spaced out or whatever you want to call it all the time. Or is it in awareness? Sati is the gate to the deathless. Well, when I first recognized Sati, it seemed so weak and insubstantial. I couldn't sustain it. How do you? Because the power of the emotions and the senses and that were so strong, and this Sati was so weak. It easily just get thrown about. It could be. So I could have moments of mindfulness, just through peaceful situations, controlling the environment to where nothing kind of too much was happening to me. Like on a meditation retreat or something like that, but you leave the meditation retreat and there it is, the world bombarding you with its demands. So, but then this reflection on Four Noble Truths just to exploring what clinging, what Dhanha Upadana is, getting to know Dhanha, recognizing, and in that very recognizing of Dhanha as Dhanha, began to realize, I'm not Dhanha. Dhanha comes and goes. But what remains, what's always here, is Sati. This is the refuge. This has to be the refuge of this awareness. This is the only possibility we have within this state we're in as human beings, to be freed from the movement of the conditioned realm and be just trapped and stuck into it. So when you talk about Sati as a transcending, I don't mean transcendent in some kind of theoretical way, but what I mean is that with Sati, it allows us this perspective. It's not a denial of anything or rejection, but it puts us in it allows us to see things as they are. All conditions are impermanent. It's not a desire, it's a natural state, it's not an artificial creation, it's not a theoretical ideal, very real, very down to earth, includes everything, the beautiful, the ugly, the body, the feelings, perceptions, conceptions, consciousness, everything is allowed with Sati, is the stronger, as you recognize it and develop. So the bhavana is really the cultivation of Sati through right understanding. So then the Eightfold Path is not an impossible kind of ideal that nobody could ever hope to attain or achieve. It's very real and very practical. Here and now. It's not a remote kind of hope that we have before I die I might realize the Eightfold Path, that kind of thing. Because the Buddha was pointing to here and now, not to developing something now to get something in the future. So in developing in bhavana, then the Sati is the stronger. That Sati, if you recognize it and cultivate Sati, awareness, mindfulness, then the right understanding, seeing things in the right way, and letting go of desire, not destroying desire, but letting desire go, let desire be what it is. Relationship to desire then is of knowing rather than becoming it. Because desire is the rebirth process, isn't it? And when we attach to desire, we're reborn again. So that's our soul in terms of what gets reborn when you die is desire, looking for something to be born again into. Now you can see it in your mind, how when the desire for something or other, the longing, the wanting to control things, wanting happiness, wanting success, wanting to be loved and appreciated, or whatever, wanting to get rid of anger and jealousy and fear. So there's three kinds of desires can be seen as from this perspective of birth and death. Desire rises and ceases. It is born and it dies. When desire dies, when it ceases, Sati is still there. Isn't it? It's not. So desire is not self, not mine. I'm not desire. I have no soul then. Don't need one. Don't want one. Don't want to be a separate Sumedho soul for eternity up in even if the God would admit me into heaven forever. This is not an attractive scenario. What would that mean? Bored to death, probably. My vision, but having to live with God for eternity never sounded very attractive. But they'll see this as this exploration, and the Sati actually, as you cultivate this path, the Sati is the strong. It contains everything, and the sankhars seem so ephemeral, so insubstantial. Where before, when I was operating from desire and self-view and delusion, then it seemed like the the sankharas were the strong things, the body and the senses and the emotions. These are overwhelming, seemed hopelessly strong and persistent and insistent and urgent. But as the faith and trust in the Sati Sampajanya increased, then and that is the real strength. That's the stability. The still points, the freedom from suffering. Yet the conditions, they are what they are. So the body gets old, dies. Before it dies, there's various sicknesses and weaknesses, failings and degeneration. But these are not, if one has Sati as a refuge, these are nothing to be feared. Because we're not claiming them anymore, or trying to get rid of them. We're learning every opportunity to no longer create delusions around what's happening, what impinges, what we're feeling and experiencing in the present.